Hey guys, this is Emmanuel Vargas from The Breeze, one of the creative producers from the newspaper, and we're here today at Adobe Max. We're going to walk around, ask people a couple questions, and see where that goes. Thank you guys. Alright, so right now we're walking around to see if we can find anybody else, ask them a couple of questions and see what's up, what their favorite program is, what their reason to be here, and what have they learned so far. Come on, let's go. Hey bud, could I ask you a couple questions? My name's Emmanuel. I work for the newspaper, and I'm gonna ask you a couple questions. My first question would be, could you say your name, occupation, and your favorite program to use?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's David Wilson. I'm the manager of creative production at the Mary Kay Corporation, and my favorite program by far is Photoshop. So.
And how long have you been involved in this industry or area?
I'm probably longer than most people here have been alive. So I started in 1992. So.
Okay. And did you see any changes from then to now? How big is it?
A few. When I got into this in '92. Photoshop was this new thing that people didn't think was going to be able to, do the real work of photo retouching. They were still done on what they called high-end systems like Cytex and things like that. And it's definitely turned into something that I wouldn't have believed, back then. So for sure.
Do you think it is increasing community in a positive or negative way?
Oh, that's really, I think, the most interesting thing is how, the internet has brought these online groups, and companies like Adobe are making these online communities. And so now, when I was starting off, we were hungry for connection with other people doing what we were doing. And because the communication was so difficult back then, we would, try to, we'd have little user groups we would set up and all this kind of thing. And now you have 15,000 people at an event like this. It's unimaginable.
Yeah, it is. And I would say that the turn has been really great. A lot of more creatives, different ideas, perspectives. Coming to this convention, what do you hope to take back? Anything you learn?
Absolutely. I've been doing this a long time, and I found that the main thing you have to do is keep learning, keep finding new things. Just walking around this exhibit hall, I talked to 3 or 4 vendors that could make our lives a lot easier. I've already attended sessions that help me figure out how to make our creative teams more productive and communicate better and re-energize. So going to events like this is really important, I think, to energize your creativity and keep abreast with what the new technology is. So.
I agree with you. Thank you for taking the time today, answering my questions. You have a nice one. Today has been going pretty great. Go ahead and introduce yourself, bud.
Hi, I'm Stefan Grunebaum, and I work for Adobe. I work on tutorials about the video products. My favorite application is Premiere Pro. I use it a lot, and I love it. I love learning new things about it. And I'm at Max today, or this session this week, to be a TA at various labs. So I go around with other people behind in the back of the room, and when people's hands go up because they're lost, then we rush over to them and we say, what's the problem? And they tell us, and then we figure out what the answer is, what the solution is to their problem. So it's kind of like running guns, problem solving, but it's a lot of fun because it keeps me on my toes. I have to really know the app pretty well and know the lessons so that when people stray or they weren't paying attention when the instructor did such and such, and they're like, where am I going now? I'm lost. I can get them back on track.
Yeah. So you work for Adobe. What is your goal for this session then, for this convention?
My goal is just to meet customers, meet people who actually use the products, and just hear them talk about how they use the products and why they use them and how often they use them and what their problems are. Because normally I interact with customers in the forums, and it's not part of my job, but I like doing it. And when people go to the forums, they're usually there because they're mad, because there's a problem that they can't solve themselves. And so they're venting on on the, or they're just saying like, this thing's not working, what's going on? And so they're frustrated. Whereas here, they're not really frustrated when you first meet them, they're actually really excited. So you get a different kind of perspective on who the customer is and why they like the products or why they like Adobe. And it's just great to meet real people who use our products. Because when we're, at the company, we have these ideas of who our audience might be for these tutorials I work on, let's say, the kind of person who might be actually using the product and what they want to use it for. But when I come here, I realize, there are people who are doing it for commercials, for their trainers at universities, the reasons for using it, their government, nonprofit. You really get a sense of the spectrum of the kind of person who uses our apps.
So in the sense of demographics, who are your favorite people to work with? Beginners or advanced?
My favorite people are beginners to a certain extent, or people who haven't touched the tool in a while, because it's fun to get them excited about it. People who are really advanced, they'll have very specific things they want to do, and trying to help them can be sometimes it's a challenge, and it's interesting to try and find what their particular problem is that they're trying to solve. But for a beginner, I like it just because their eyes light up, or they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I didn't know I could do that," and that's a great feeling to get, right? I didn't know I could do that.
Hi, my name is Greg Rostami.
All right. And this is Emmanuel Vargas. So I'm going to go ahead and ask you, what is your favorite app from Adobe?
Oh man, my favorite app must be Photoshop. Mainly because our products run so beautifully inside of Photoshop.
And so how does your product aid or advance Photoshop?
Yeah, we have created a library of plugins for Photoshop that do everything from artistic effects to problem solving. And I want to show you one right now.
I would love to see it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we're going to get an example today and see how this app works.
Yes. So the first thing I'm going to show you is a blurry photograph, right? So whenever you have blur, you can zoom in on the license plate as much as you want, but I'm afraid you just can't read the license plate, right? So we are going to really read the license plate. And when you go into our Topaz and Focus, which is like a plugin in Photoshop, all you do is, on the right side, make sure you select our unknown feature, which means you tell it that you don't know how it got blurry, and click Estimate Blur. So here comes the miracle.
And so I'm curious, how does the app work? How does it go about it? Yeah.
So what it does is that it first determines how the image got blurry, right? Once it determines that, then it builds what's called a deconvolution matrix. That gobbledygook essentially means that it knows how the image got blurry, so it can now reverse the process of blur as it pulls in the values of pixels to a center pixel, and that's how it removes the blur from the photo. So, in the original photo, when you couldn't read anything, now you can read PJ2DX. And even if you were to compare this to the way that Adobe does it, so there's the blur, this is the latest Photoshop shake reduction, which really doesn't work very well. And then finally, here's what happens with our Topaz and Focus.
So is it an algorithm that's based in the program that figures out the pixels, or does it go based off the image?
Yeah, it's actually the algorithm that's inside of our product is what figures out how to rebuild the image without the blur out. So it really removes blur.
That's really good. We need more applications like that. Thank you so much. This is The Breeze, Emmanuel Vargas, creative producer. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
So I'm a journalist from The Breeze, and I have a quick question for you. Yeah. For upcoming millennials or younger generations, you said you have a big demographic control over them, meaning they come to you, consume your products. How would you give advice to students or people who want to do international affairs, such as your episodes on Ukraine? I've been keeping up with that. I've actually been keeping up with the news on that. It's actually inspired me. So how would you tell me or other people like me to go about it and like exploring those international affairs?
Yeah, that's very interesting because I mean, the places we travel to are dangerous generally. I mean, there's a kind of joke Instagram post that everyone takes when they're in the office, and it's like, oh, here's the Vice work uniform, and it's a cage of flak jackets and like helmets and things that people literally have to. We are sending people into war zones. We are sending people into like, you know, and then you look at Vice's history. We sent people into North Korea. We, you know, went into Africa. We went into all these dangerous places. I mean, when Vice first started doing this, it was pre 9/11, so it was kind of a little bit easier. Now, just to go to the Middle East and be a reporter there, and I mean, look what's happening in the news at the moment. The guy was kind of went missing in the Saudi embassy. Like, it's dangerous stuff. So it's not the kind of thing that you can really stumble into. But I would say just work out the sources that you would aspire to work for, and then work out how they're telling the stories, how they're putting them together. And like I said, it's not just like sound up, VO, strap line, you know, talking head 1, talking head 2. It's like, what is their reporting about? How are they asking the questions? You know, very good journalists have ways of like asking 3 tangential questions like a ninja, and then they've suddenly got an interview subject pinned. You know, that's work out that stuff first, and then look, for students, I would take it small by going, like the midterms, there's so much going on. Go interview a local polling office or a polling office in your next state, or do both of it, and then compare and contrast the two stuff. Like, yeah, international news, like, I couldn't in good faith just tell you, like, yeah, just, and I'm someone who's travelled around everywhere. I lived in London for 10 years. I'm Australian, so we're naturally, like, travelling around everywhere, but the international news that we do can be dangerous, you know.
Mm-hmm. And so when you guys produce this content, are you guys catering it to US-based demographics, or are you guys catering it to wherever you're filming it?
Yeah, that is a good question. You know, I mean, our primary show is on the US. It's definitely like domestic news on HBO, 7:30 every night for a US audience. But then we cover probably more international stories every night than any other news network. And I think our audience is interested in the international context. You look at the rise of the far right in Europe, for example, which we've covered quite a lot. You know, there is a context in America, there is a context in Europe, and what are the links between those two contexts, and we can kind of cover those kind of things, you know. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, perfectly. All right, well, it's nice meeting you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving me the time.